Sudath Pereira has every reason to be content. He started this textiles factory outside the Kenyan capital Nairobi in 2000, and 9 years later employs 1,500 workers and turns over 18 to 20 million US dollars a year. His business lies in Kenya's Export Processing Zone, or EPZ, and the 70 or so factories here get special tax breaks to produce goods specifically for the international market.
I believe it helps quite a lot to the economy. And also the other way, if you see that these are direct employment, indirect, if you see there are a lot of local suppliers, like carton suppliers and also polybag suppliers and some trims, accessory suppliers, local suppliers. So they are also depending on us. So they also have a workforce. So I believe that we are contributing.
Most of his employees would agree, but not Collins in Dolombingo. He got a job here 2 years ago, and as his family's breadwinner, the $120 US he earns is barely enough.
Ukicheki nguo saa hii pale inatoka $44 US.
For example, this top may be sold at $44, meaning 2 or 3 clothes are worth your salary. But when you do get your pay at the end of the month, the money is very little. You only use it for 3 days and you start asking for loans. What I would like to say is if they could just increase our salaries.
All the knit tops and wrinkle-free trousers that are produced here at Altex are sold in the United States, because Pereira has decided to take advantage of the African Growth and Opportunities Act, or AGOA, an American initiative that allows certain African countries to export goods like textiles and horticultural products into the US duty-free. Democratic Congressman Jim McDermott was one of the politicians who pushed for AGOA to become a reality and is widely seen as the founding father of the initiative.
Well, we started AGOA in 1995 because we had no trade policy toward Africa. And here are 800 million people, and the United States had no relationship with them. So the starting of AGOA was really to begin the process of bringing them into the economic globalization. And Africans, there's no reason Africans can't compete in the world, but they needed to have the United States reach out and draw them in because we're the biggest market. So we opened our markets to Africa in order so that whatever countries are ready to do it can start doing business and get up on their feet and get going.
It took 5 more years before AGOA was up and running, and nearly 40 of the 48 countries in sub-Saharan Africa joined. In exchange for the trade incentives they get, they have to comply with the US definition of democracy. This August, they all met in Nairobi for the 8th AGOA Forum to discuss how they can improve the initiative, which should have expired last year but has been extended to 2015. US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was there as part of her first Africa tour in her new job and told delegates that she was looking forward to increasing trade between America and Africa even more.
The ingredients are all here for an extraordinary explosion of growth, prosperity, and progress. This is the storyline of opportunity that I want to tell, because I know how important it is to translate legislation like AGOA, the efforts of governments like Kenya's, into daily changes that people can look to.
Kenya exports mostly clothing, coffee, and tea under the scheme. Amos Kimunya is Kenya's Minister for Trade.
America is a huge consumer market. It's a superpower. It gives us an opportunity to deal with the best in terms of standards, in terms of buying power. And we know we are doing a lot of business, for example, as Kenya, within the region. We're doing business with Europe. We're doing business with America. But we could do more. And for us, we believe in the future lies in more trade, not aid, not in waiting for handouts. You know, like some people perhaps have had the impression that because President Obama has his roots in Kenya, you know, there will be manna flowing from heaven. That's not the reality. But the reality is that America has opened up its doors for us to do business.
But not everyone agrees that business with the West is the answer to growing African economies, especially as so many Western economies are in recession. James Shikwati is a Kenyan economic analyst and heads the Interregional Economic Network.
The point is that I think Kenya, what is happening in Kenya is very similar also to what's happening to the majority of African countries. Our focus is outward. You know, we think in terms of business means export to America, or business means export to Europe. So in the process, what we've done is to ignore our own market, which is, let's say, in Kenya, or ignore the East African market, or ignore now the COMESA market. So now we're talking about cotton production to feed into the AGOA system, which, as I said before, is not really a free trade system. It limits our ability to be productive. And I think that's a mistake we've done, to focus out before we think about ourselves. Because the irony here is that we'll be talking about exporting apparels to the United States of America, but at the same time we'll be talking about importing second-hand clothes from America to clothe Kenyans.
It's certainly true that none of the businesses in the EPZ would be able to locally compete with the bustling second-hand markets all over the country. Many of these clothes are donated free of charge by their previous owners in the West, but by the time they arrive here, they are part of a thriving informal industry.
I like buying second-hand clothes because it helps low-income people like me have something to wear according to what I can afford. So it's a good thing.
There's also fierce competition from Asia. These pictures of the global garments and textiles factory in Accra, Ghana were filmed 2 years ago. The company specializes in camouflage uniforms, most of which it exports to the States under AGOA. But this is what it looks like today. Of the 150 employees that once worked here, only 30 remain. They simply can't undercut the price at which Chinese manufacturers sell their textiles. Christiana Mawusi is one of the survivors, but she doesn't know how long the factory will stay open.
It's the rate that we charge our customers when they come. They say that when they compare it to China, China's rate is far better than ours, so they prefer sending it to China.
Back in Nairobi, traders from all over the continent tried to use the conference as an opportunity to sell their products. Insiders say that Kenyan exports to the US went up 8% in the last year, mostly due to US legislation to promote trade in Africa. But analyst James Shikwati points out that there are two sides to that.
AGOA is offering very powerful lessons. They are not hiding anything, even if you go to their website. AGOA is very clear that they are looking at the interests of America in terms of how to grow business in Africa. So what we need to do as Africans is to ask ourselves, how can we develop our own interests? Because you're not going to benefit if you have no interest to benefit at the first place.
AGOA has helped African businesses compete, which is a good thing. But to level the playing field with exporters from Asia and the West, African governments have to do more for their industries, helping to bring down production and transport costs and encouraging more trade within Africa.